Oh yeah, still got the touch after a couple of years. I just took 2 trees out. See, you don't need to go elsewhere for your chainsawing content. You can come right here to this channel and watch chainsaws roaring. And I got rid of this little turkey here. You can see how it's hooked through the other one. I didn't want it to interfere, but oh well, too late. so I ripped this one right up from the roots. Yeah, my father had a small amount of 2-stroke fuel and, well, unfortunately no oil at all for the bar oil. And he just tested this and he started up and he gave it a run because he's been fixing all the pull starter mechanism, which took a couple of attempts to get right because it's actually 2 different lots of springs and it's a bit of a complicated mess of an assembly in there. And then in the process of getting it started once, the pull starter string got stuck in the middle and it melted the bloody thing to the main plastic piece. Anyway, bought new string, we're going, it's all right. This chain it's probably still pretty hot, but not much slack at all. Now he used it a little bit, which wouldn't have taken much slack. He just went through something that's probably 4 inches thick. You don't want to use it too much if you got no bar oil. It's actually really a no-no. But yeah, gave me the chain. He always says his chain's really loose. I don't like it. I don't like it at all because I have the previous one. The still has these. You got your chuck in here. That's a centrifugal chuck hooked on like this cog thing that actually drives your chain from the bottom parts in there. So the other one, he used it a bit and we got some dirty ass big marks on that, and I don't know if it's just wear or it's because the chain was too loose and it's jerking a bit, but I have it tight. But even going through this entire tree, which is, you know, these are like size 13, 14 US boots. Alright, so she's not exactly the smallest bloody log. You know, and still the chain's tight after going through all that. And there's a lot of rotten bullshit in a fair bit of this in the centre here. And yeah, so this is the one I had the other branch collapse off. As you can see, I don't know if it's like termites or some bullshit because you got all that mud that is synonymous with termites and stuff, but it's not quite the right colour. But then again, the ground's very dark here, and then you got a lot of holes, and it's all just sort of flaked out in a way that you sort of see with termites. And I thought, stuff this thing's not going to rot. I'm going to use it before it rots. Yeah, but this is all, as I was saying, the chain's very tight. I think the piston's tight and the bearing's tight, you know, and you got a thing here which is your speed, and that's your lock-in. So it'll be like a full speed, so you start it and revs to full revs. Can't really have it at idle at the moment. I don't know if it's the clutch needs adjusting, like if the centrifugal thing's trying to kick in too early, or it's just tight chain, tight clutch, tight piston rings, tight bearings, because this thing has ran for a total of about bloody 5 minutes, honestly. So everything's going to be pretty tight until and I put a bit more 2-stroke oil in than it should normally have, which is a good idea if you're not a heap more, but a little bit more, you know, another blooming 20 mil or whatever, in a gallon and a half tank sort of thing, which of course is not going to fit in there, but that's the jerry can I'm using, is 5 litres, which is about a bit more than a gallon and a quarter, but anyway. So yeah, you want to sort of go a little bit heavy on the 2-stroke oil initially because you're going to have a lot of wear and bullshit from initial use. And as I said, like I tried to pull start this when I first owned it and I broke the bloody pull starter and it sat in a cupboard for 9 years and never actually started, and I have not seen it start until my father had it in his shed, well, literally yesterday. That's the first time I've seen this thing actually run in 9 years because it's spent a lot of time sitting in a cupboard. And as I said, we might as well use this thing as opposed to just have it sit. Yes, it's a terribly shit quality. They should all be, but they're not. I've probably compensated for it. That was my initial one after the spring broke, that I could wind this back using a screwdriver and then pull again and then wind it back by hand or with a screwdriver or whatever. I think I still had 2 little bits going across, but my father must have sorted it right out. But anyway, I'm glad. I'm flaming glad they've got a chainsaw that even if it has to run at high revs, it still runs. And it's got a lot of chain left on it, and I believe that's an Oregon chain that I can just get more chains for anyway. And you don't need to go everywhere else to see people. This is a decent sized tree actually. My God, this is a big one. These are all about, well, they're planted in 1927, so you can do the maths on that, and that's exactly when these were first planted. So, and there's a kitty over there. So anyway, that's all right. It's still usable up to, well, about 3 yards away from me, and then we're still, yeah. So that's a beauty. I might go and do what they call bucking, which is try and chop a bit of this crapola off before the sun goes down, and it is going down. And I don't know how we're going to work this bitch out now. I'll probably just, there's a couple of rocks there, I'll probably just whack it there at some point, but it's got a few fairly branches out here, so probably cut these two and then try and drop that one. The trick you do is, if you think it's going to pinch, what you do is you come from underneath, so you whack your chainsaw underneath and then go up, and then it just, and you won't have too much of a problem. Didn't really want to take this one out, but you know, it's out now. That one there also, yeah, he's lost a branch out there. And I was in my bedroom and actually heard the bastard crack off, and heard this colossal crunch at night. And I come out the next morning and there's a big one, but I've sort of used that one already. I cut most of that up a few years ago. So anyway, really more into the big stuff that I can burn all night long. I've got so much stuff that's, 4 inches thick, stuff like this. It's just pathetic amounts of it. I've got a pile of it that I've never used, and it's just all thrown out in a pile next to the big water tank out there. But anyway, that's definitely achievement. I've got to go and spray that box thorn too in a minute. Yeah.